Hello. For this devlog update, I want to go over an issue I had with animations and then a quick status update. So I was adding an animation for a stab and a block. What ended up happening is if I held a direction after it completed, the animation would randomly change. I was adding an animation for stab and then another one for block. But what was happening is I was holding a direction. After the animation finished, it would then change the animations randomly. So I ended up having to troubleshoot quite a bit, and this turned into a time-consuming issue that had to be solved. Before I get to how I fixed it, I should probably go through how the sprite and animations for the player character are set up so that there is context for the fixes. In the player scene file, I have a sprite 2D that displays a texture for the player, and there are several of these for each of the layers. The texture is from a sprite sheet, and the images in the sprite sheet are located in a column and index. So basically it collapses into a single frame, and then each frame can be found by an index based on a column. To play the animations, I'm using the animation player object. What this does is it will look for an individual frame of the sprite sheet, and then it will play it in whatever sequential order I do by these keyframes. So it's going to do it for every single texture, 2D texture that I set up, and then even including some other, visible, invisible setting stuff like that. The next object I use for animations is the animation tree. This is for transitioning from one animation to another, so it kind of tries to do it smoothly, like going from idle to run. The animation trees is actually where I found where most of the issues were coming from. The animation tree has nodes which connect to each other. Most of the time I use a 2D blend space. It kind of acts like input that plays animation based on a 2D vector. The first thing I checked for is to make sure that the blend space for each of the individual nodes, for all of them, I had to go in and make sure that this blend is set to discrete and not continuous. The discrete is good for pixel animation, but the continuous, if set for pixel animation, it kind of just creates chaos. The next thing I had to do was to make sure that the X, Y positional animations that are set were set to the correct animations. So it will say, this one is draw weapon, the W is for west, this one is for south. So it'll play that the animation from the animation player based off the vector pointing in which direction. Then, for every connector that goes from each node to the next, I had to go to the switch and advanced settings and make sure that they were appropriately set. So this ended up being the cause of most of the issues. There's three things that are really important to it, and it has to be understood. I didn't at the time. A condition has to be set, so it's basically a true-false value to tell it to go to walk, to idle, to draw weapon, to attack, or whatever. So just a custom value has to be set. The next thing is the advance, the switch mode. If it's set to immediate, and after an attack finishes, it will then just blend into the next animation if senses that a vector has come through, so it will just interrupt the animation. So for attack to walk, I wanted everything to be at the end, whereas going from like walk to idle, back to idle, it didn't matter. The last thing is the mode. So I don't want an attack to play unless I tell it through the code to attack. So I had to switch that to enabled for all of them to make sure that it only plays on the method call and not just when it senses a vector change. And that you'll see in like the attack state here. I'm gonna go find it. See, the sword tree playback travel is set to stab instead of just letting it do it on its own. It's explicitly called. The other area where there was an issue is the position blending. I tried to cheat, and in one call would update like the vector direction of the player character for each of the transition states. Since I tried to do them all at once, it would then trigger any animation that it just got sense was changed. So I ended up having to make sure it does it, in the appropriate state that the player character is. So if they're attacking, it'll update the attacking position blend and so on. And some I had to move even to the specific attacks. And after I finished making all those changes, it was perfectly fine. Other than that, the things I've been working on are trying to implement the skills and loot systems, which also means I have to do all the menus, which is very time consuming. So I've started working on that, but these are going to take a while. And that about covers it for this update. Thanks for watching.